Claire Prince, and welcome to Digitize Your Biz, the show that speaks all things digital and your business. Creating a strong brand has always been a priority for businesses, but with such a vast number of brands in the digital space, how can one make themselves stand out and gain sales at the end of the day? In studio with me today to discuss more of this is Lita Miti-Qamata, partner and trademark attorney at Adams & Adams, and Darren Hampton, head of digital marketing at Nando's. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lita, I'll start with you. What is branding all about?
Branding is all about coming up with a distinctive way of setting your business apart from your competitors in the market. This can be done, your brand can be expressed in different forms. It could literally be a logo, like the BDTV logo that shows up on our screen. It could be the word Business Day Television. It could go even as far as being a smell, if you're able to express that smell in a way that will be able to be determinable by somebody who is sort of a normal person and not used to sort of chemistry expressions of smells. So branding is all about that, setting your business apart, creating a source identifier for your business in the marketplace.
Darren, what is the different forms of branding in terms of traditional and digital forms of branding?
Hey, morning. I think how we see it is branding is not essentially a specific to a specific channel. So, we talk about digital branding versus traditional branding. I think the principles of branding, which Lita summed up quite nicely, apply to a variety of channels in different ways. So I think the key there is to think of the digital space as a media channel rather than a type of marketing, if you want to call it that.
Mm. And Lita, with Nando's, they have a very strong brand identity and awareness. How does one then protect that asset and their identity in terms of intellectual property?
That's a very good question. And I think Nando's has done a sterling job to do that in the South African market. And I think the first thing you do is to identify what that intellectual property is within your business that has value. And that you could potentially create to bring in income or even create more value within your business. If you're able to identify that, then you can take the next step and protect. I think where we get kind of stuck is that people have ideas, they're not able to identify them as intellectual property and actually having value within their business, and they're not able to protect, and then they're not able to commercialize. I think Nando's has done a good job of identifying what those things are, setting themselves apart in the market, and then protecting that branding. I think that's very important, using the means through which you can protect, which is a formal trademark registration. Protection also comes with enforcement. In other words, if somebody misuses your brand or creates an impression that they're associated with you, which they aren't, taking steps to enforce that so that you retain the strength of your brand in the market. So those are some of the things that you can do.
And Darren, Nando's has a very strong identity, as Lita has mentioned, and you guys always find a way to stay relevant. How are you adapting, like in an ever-changing society like COVID?
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and I think adapting is the right word as opposed to have adapted, because we're learning on a daily basis, and our plans have gone from figuring out what the next 12 months looks like to figuring out what the next 2 weeks looks like. So I think what COVID and I suppose a crisis of sorts does really test is the foundations of a brand or of a company, of a person as an individual as well. And I think having the 30 years worth of investment that Nando's has put into establishing the brand and being consistent with that has really helped, I suppose, keep afloat during these turbulent times. What goes into that is a multitude of pieces that fit a broader puzzle. But at the heart of it, especially for a brand like Nando's, is that what we do is we sell delicious peri-peri chicken, flame grilled chicken. And we have done that for 30 years. And I think without, there's a well-known saying that a great ad campaign will make a poor product fail faster. And that's certainly true, is that without a really great product and consistently serving that great product in the right experience, we wouldn't have the brand that we talk about today.
Well, Darren, I'm just going to pause you on your point right there. We'll be right back as we continue our discussion on creating a strong brand identity and awareness for your business in the digital space. Welcome back to Digitize Your Biz. If you've just joined us, we are discussing how to build a strong and secure brand strategy for your business in the digital space. Still with me in studio is Lita Miti-Qamata, partner and trademark attorney at Adams & Adams and head of digital marketing at Nando's, Darren Hampton. Darren, I'm just going to pick up with you from your last point. So like you mentioned, Nando's has a very brand and vocal brand identity and awareness. How do you guys then manage to protect your brand from backlash from the public, especially because you're so vocal and speak to current issues?
We have very good lawyers. It's the short answer to that. No, but I think on a serious note, Nando's over the years has built its reputation as being one that I suppose is the cheeky brand that makes a stand, and we haven't, and it's been important that we haven't lost that over the last 30 years, regardless of the type of platforms that become available. And we talk about social media in the digital space, but that's only a relatively new media channel, if you want to call it that. But the principles still apply. I think we are very close to what people are thinking, feeling, and believing at a particular time. And being aware of that and being aware of the context within what your marketing is landing in is huge to just understanding that balance and getting that right. We don't get it right all the time. We've landed ourselves into trouble a number of times, but how you handle that is as important as how you deliver it. I think as creative wise, we stand by a principle of, if there are 10 people that are exposed to an ad or a piece of content that we provide, we'd far rather have 7 people love it and 3 people absolutely hate it than for all 10 to feel indifferent about it. And so with the pros of standing out and being seen as an irreverent type brand are the cons of the backlash, as you mentioned. But thankfully, as we navigate South Africa and take it for what it is, so to have our customers, and we'd like to think that as good as we've been to our customers, they have been to us. So we'll keep going, and that's not to say that we won't rustle up any feathers going forward.
And Lita, on your side, why is branding such an important aspect of digital marketing?
Because, like we said at the beginning, it sets your business apart from your competitors who are also occupying that space. It's a very powerful tool that you use to establish yourself. If you take advantage of a first-to-market strategy coming out with your product or your services, it is a source identifier, and you really want to have mechanisms in place to use it effectively, to protect it effectively, and to maintain and also sort of monitor the use of your brand. It can be something really quite powerful because it encapsulates the goodwill of your business. It communicates everything that is intangible and that is really good about your business. I mean, if you think of big brands right now, I won't mention anyone in particular. Actually, I'll mention Nando's because I'm on with you here. The minute you hear Nando's, okay, good chicken, great ads, those things come to mind, and it's because of how they're using that brand and the power of that brand. So if you use it correctly, you protect it correctly, you're able to really preserve the goodwill of the business through that brand. And you don't just set yourself apart, but you're able to really enjoy the fruits of having a strong brand.
And Lita, let's just speak about some of the methods that businesses use in terms of increasing their brand awareness, and that's of social media influencers. How does then a social media influencer then tie in to a business's digital marketing strategy?
Well, that is a good question. It's something that's happening more and more in the new world that we live in. It's important to have a strong social media sort of print as a brand. And I think how influencers can tie into that is, I imagine the influencers target the brands that they want to be associated with. That will obviously bring their following, but it's also a reciprocal relationship. The influencer brings their people, their following, and the brand leverages off the influencer's following, as well as the influencer leveraging off the power of the brand. I think the important thing is that from the brand holder or brand owner's perspective, is that they secure those social media platforms for themselves. So in other words, if you are in Nando's, you have the handles registered on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, you have those pages preserved, okay? And then you also then, as a mechanism, perhaps have a policy that deals with how third parties should use your brand. You really want to control how your brand is used, what kind of trademarks they use on social platforms, and they use that correctly in a way that is consistent with your identity as a corporation or as a business. And you want to monitor that brand, and you also want to educate your employees on the importance of your brand, because they're usually the people who pick up misuse of the brand outside with you, which you as a business owner are not always necessarily awake to or alert to. And obviously some of those mechanisms is to kind of not just venture into partnerships with influencers, but have I keep using the word policy for lack of a better word, but sort of a framework that sets out on which basis people can engage with your brand and use your brand, and sort of rules around that relationship, because that goes a long way in you having control of the use of your brand outside, whether by influencers or third parties. And you want to maintain consistency with use of your brand that speaks to your corporate identity. And you really don't want to lose control of that and allow people to just use it anyhow, where you can have a situation where your brand loses its power, like escalator. Can you believe that started as a trademark for moving stairs, but now every moving stair is called an escalator? So those are the dangers and pitfalls that could happen if you don't employ mechanisms and to control the use of your brand by your own people and by influencers or other third parties.
Darren, on your side, with big companies and corporates, what are you looking for specifically when trying to incorporate or collaborate with social media influencers?
Yeah, influencer marketing is one of my favorite topics, because I'm as much a skeptic as opposed to an advocate for it. And I think purely because I've seen it being used badly, and people can pick that up very quickly if someone is promoting a product or brand, but it's not really authentic to who they are or what they believe in. And especially in South Africa, where we have a high degree of micro celebrities, if we want to call it that, particularly in the social media space, popularity is weighed up higher than actual influence. And I think within the marketing space, it's easy to measure popularity. How many people am I going to reach with this? How many people are following this particular individual? All those metrics are there and are quite straightforward to see. So, it's when something is easy, people gravitate towards that. But I think it's very difficult to measure the influence or the impact that somebody had on how I perceive or believe in a particular product, brand, or company. That's a very difficult thing to measure. But I think, when you talk about how we view it, I think that done successfully, if ultimately as a result of this partnership, you have influenced the way people see your brand or product in the way that you aim to, then that's a successful marketing channel. And the type of person has to really marry well with the brand itself, and something that Lita spoke about. So I think the starting point that we have, particularly when looking at partners, and this speaks for not only partners in marketing sense, but our suppliers who provide products, and our agencies who work with us, is that the person as an individual and the values that they hold are spot on with what we are as Nando's. And I think the moment that is the same and on par, and it's like a relationship, you are both incentivized and motivated by the same thing, and then you can work magic together.
Well, thank you, Darren and Lita, for your insights and explaining what good brand awareness should actually look like and how to protect your brand's IP.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
That was Lita Miti-Qamata, partner and trademark attorney at Adams & Adams, and Darren Hampton, head of digital marketing at Nando's. You can get a hold of them on the details displayed on the screen. After this, we have experts who will be sharing their brand strategy and delve in a bit deeper into social media influencing. Stay tuned.